Dr. James Carter woke before dawn in his small New York apartment. 6 months had passed since he fled Nigeria, yet sleep still eluded him. Each night, echoes of his mother's angry words and his twin brother John's deceit came rushing back. Through the window, Manhattan's lights blinked against a cold December sky. He had rebuilt a semblance of life here, resuming work as a cardiologist at a busy hospital. But the wounds from home festered quietly. Welcome to Afro Tales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our amazing stories. Every so often, James scoured the internet for news from Nigeria. One morning, an article caught his eye. Diaspora remittances, a pillar of the economy, it read. The piece lauded how money sent by Nigerians abroad kept millions of families afloat. James's chest tightened as he realized he had been exactly that, a lifeline for his family. And what did I get in return? He thought bitterly. He remembered sending thousands of dollars back home each year, contributions that helped make up the 6% of Nigeria's GDP driven by diaspora support. His sacrifices had paid Grace's university fees, bought Helen a sewing machine, and built Margaret a new roof. Yet, when he returned with nothing but a fake deportation letter, they'd turned on him. Late at night, when the hospital's frenzy died down, James would wander the quiet halls, replaying that fateful trip to Lagos. He recalled stepping off the plane under the blazing sun, heart pounding with a concoction of hope and dread. He had expected a test of love, but it became a nightmare of betrayal. In the stillness of the ward, he could almost hear his twin's cruel voice. I built it with my own hands. John had boasted about the mansion James's money funded. The humiliation still burned. Now in New York, James tried to focus on moving forward. He treated patients by day and took long walks in the evenings through Central Park, trying to clear his mind. On one such walk, near dusk, he had the uneasy feeling of being followed. The park's barren trees cast long shadows, and footsteps seemed to echo his own. He increased his pace. In a flash of a street lamp, he caught a reflection in a glass kiosk, a tall man in a dark coat, lingering about 30 feet back. James's pulse quickened. Was he being paranoid, or had John's criminal friends followed him here? He ducked into a deli, heart hammering. From behind a shelf of cereal boxes, he watched the figure outside. A man with a hardened face and a long scar slashed across his cheek leaned against a lamppost, pretending to read a newspaper. James's blood ran cold. It was the same scarred man who had threatened him and taken John away in Lagos. James remembered that final night at the family compound, the thunderstorm raging as the syndicate thugs banged on the door, their menacing voices demanding payment. One of them, this scar-faced leader, had pointed a gun at John and growled that time was up. What is he doing here? James wondered, fear intertwining with anger. Summoning courage, James stepped out of the deli and confronted the man from a safe distance. Why are you following me? He demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The man looked up slowly, a cruel smile curling his lips. Dr. Carter, this isn't your fight, he said, voice dripping with faux politeness. Go back to your American life and forget about Nigeria. Or else. He let the threat hang, then tossed the newspaper aside. In a flash, he disappeared into the crowd, leaving James trembling on the sidewalk. James realized with dawning horror that the syndicate thought he might expose them. Perhaps after he left, the police in Lagos had begun investigating the incident at his family home. Or maybe John, desperate and cornered, had tried to cut a deal by offering up names. Regardless, the criminals clearly saw James as a loose end, a potential witness, or a source of trouble. The scarred man's presence in New York was a message. Stay silent, or we can reach you anywhere. That night, James double-checked the locks on his door twice. He sat in the dark living room, a golf club in hand as an improvised weapon, eyes fixed on the door. He scarcely blinked until the first light of dawn crept through the blinds. The threat was real and had crossed continents to find him. In the following days, James found himself constantly looking over his shoulder. A black sedan often appeared in his rearview mirror during his drive to the hospital. Once, he returned home to find his mailbox pried open and the contents rifled through. Although nothing valuable was kept there, it was a clear sign. Someone had been here. The message scribbled on the back of a ripped envelope made it even clearer. We do not forget. At work, his colleagues noticed his distraction. One of them, Dr. Maria Sanchez, gently approached him after surgery. James, are you okay? You've been jumpy all week. James considered brushing it off, but Maria was a trusted friend. He confided in her about the strange occurrences and the man with the scar. Her eyes widened with concern. This sounds serious. You should report this to the police or FBI. These people crossed international lines to threaten you. That's a big deal. He nodded, knowing she was right. That evening, he filed a police report about the stalking and handed over the scarred man's description. The officer listened gravely and promised to look into it, but James felt little comfort. Without a name or concrete proof of a crime in the U.S., he doubted much could be done. The syndicate was shadowy and likely had connections to avoid easy detection. To cope, James sank into research. He read about organized crime back home, learning that what happened to him was part of a larger web. Kidnap for ransom and extortion had become the most lucrative industry in Nigeria in recent years. He found reports of ordinary people terrorized by bandits and gangs, some even selling their homes to pay ransom for kidnapped loved ones. It struck a chord. While his case was different, the core was the same. Criminals exploiting people for money. John's syndicate had likely been involved in similar extortion or fraud. Maybe John borrowed money from them, or laundered my remittances through their channels. James pondered bitterly. The specifics were unclear, but their ruthlessness was not. One chilly evening, returning from a late shift, James found his apartment door slightly ajar. He froze. The corridor was silent, the only sound his own heartbeat thudding in his ears. He gently pushed the door open. The living room was wrecked. Cushions slashed, drawers pulled out, papers strewn everywhere. Panic flared as he rushed to his bedroom. There, scrawled across the wall in spray paint, was a crude message. Last warning, keep quiet. Next to it, impaled on a kitchen knife stuck into the drywall, hung the fake deportation letter he had shown his family in Lagos. The syndicate had left it as a twisted souvenir. James's stomach churned. They had violated his sanctuary and demonstrated they could strike at will. He realized with dread that as long as this criminal ring was active and saw him as a threat, he'd never be safe, nor would his family back in Lagos. Family. The thought brought a mix of pain and longing. Despite everything, he worried about them. Margaret was aging. Grace and Helen were young women who could be targets, and even John, wherever he was now, might be in mortal danger from his underworld partners. The police arrived and took a report on the break-in. One officer, a stern man with kind eyes, handed James a card. If what you say about this Nigerian gang is true, the FBI might get involved, especially since you're a U.S. citizen being targeted. We'll escalate this. James thanked him, but that night, he felt no safer. He couldn't stay locked up and cowering. He needed a plan to end this nightmare. 3 days later, as James was considering hiring a private security guard, a letter arrived from Nigeria. It was from his cousin Peter. James tore it open, hands shaking. Peter's neat handwriting covered several pages. He began to read, "Dear James, I hope this reaches you safely. So much has happened since you left. First, I want to say I'm sorry for everything. The family is in shambles right now. After you left, the truth came out fully. Helen confessed that John bribed her to help forge documents and lie about you. Auntie Rose admitted John threatened her years ago to keep quiet about the money you were sending. Mama cries every day, regretting how she treated you. Grace hasn't been herself either. They all want to apologize, but we don't know how to reach you securely. There's more. John is..." in jail, or rather, in police custody. The syndicate he was involved with turned on him, just like they threatened. After that night, they roughed him up and he narrowly escaped with his life. He actually turned himself in to the police, James. He thought prison would be safer than the syndicate's revenge. He's been cooperating with an investigation into the gang's activities. I think your evidence, the bank statements and ledger, helped the authorities build a case. The syndicate is furious, and they've been making threats against anyone connected to John. Mama and the twins have been lying low. We had to leave the family compound for a while and stay with a relative in another state for safety. The police are trying to round up the gang, but these guys are powerful. The scar-faced man you mentioned, his name is Rasak, and he's still at large. James paused, breath catching. So John had flipped on the syndicate and was now under police protection, of sorts. It made sense now why Rasak and his goons were after him too. If John used James's documents as evidence, Rasak might assume James was actively helping the investigation. He continued reading. James, there's one more thing, and it's hard to explain in a letter. A boy named Samuel came into our lives. He's 10 years old and we believe he's your son. His mother, Aisha, was a nurse you were close to long ago. She passed away recently after an illness. In her things, she left a note for her boy explaining who his father is. You. Samuel had nowhere to go. Right now he's staying at a local children's home, the one you donated your house to, believe it or not. It was a coincidence how it happened. I've attached a photo of him. James, when you see it, you'll know. He looks so much like you did at that age. I'm sorry to drop this on you. The boy needs family, and honestly, our family here needs you too. We are broken and in danger. I know you have every right to never speak to us again, but please, if not for them, then for this child. Come home if you can, even if just to help settle everything. We understand if you hate us, but those of us who stand with you, we really need you. Stay safe, cousin. I hope to see you again. Peter. James realized he had stopped breathing. He exhaled shakily and sank onto the couch, rereading certain lines. A son? Memories he'd long tucked away came flooding back. 12 years ago, he had volunteered at a clinic in Lagos during his medical residency. There he met Aisha, a warm and witty nurse. They had a brief, passionate relationship, but when James got a career opportunity in the U.S., they drifted apart amicably. He never knew she was pregnant with his child. Perhaps she herself discovered it after he left, or maybe she chose not to tell him, not wanting to derail his plans. And now, she was gone, and a young boy was left behind, carrying his name and eyes. Tears of joy and sorrow mixed on James's face. The enclosed photograph showed a bright-eyed boy with a shy smile, clutching a soccer ball. The resemblance was undeniable. Samuel had James's own dimpled chin and intense gaze. James's heart swelled and broke at once. Swelled with newfound love for this child, and broke for all the years lost. He stood and paced the apartment. This changed everything. He was a father, and his son was effectively an orphan in a dangerous environment. I have to go back. The thought was immediate and overpowering. Whatever rage he held toward his mother and siblings began to melt, replaced by concern for their safety and remorse for leaving things as he did. Yes, they had treated him horribly, but they were paying dearly for it now. The matriarch who slapped him was now in hiding, likely racked with guilt. The sisters who scorned him were now remorseful and frightened. Even John, his betrayer, his twin, had tried to make things right by helping the police. James spent a sleepless night agonizing over the decision. Returning to Nigeria meant stepping back into danger. Rasak was on the hunt, and James would be a prime target. But not returning meant abandoning his family and leaving his son without a father. He also realized that as long as Rasak roamed free, he might never truly be safe even abroad. The FBI had been notified, but an international crime boss wasn't so easily stopped. Perhaps, James thought, If he cooperated with the Nigerian authorities, armed with his first-hand testimony and perhaps U.S. support, they could finally bring the syndicate down. It was a risky gambit, but it was better than living in fear forever. By morning, James had made up his mind. He booked a flight to Lagos for the following week. He also reached out to the officer who'd given him a card after the break-in. James updated him about the new developments, John's cooperation with Nigerian police, the threats, and his plan to return. The officer agreed to pass the information to federal authorities. James wasn't sure if that would amount to anything concrete, but at least someone official knew his plan. Before leaving, he also prepared documents proving his paternity, old photos with Aisha, and he even managed to get a DNA test kit sent to Peter via an express courier so they could return a sample from Samuel. It was an odd comfort to focus on these logistics. It kept the terror at bay. In the back of his mind, he replayed images of Lagos, the bustling streets choked with traffic, the smell of fried plantain and petrol fumes, the calls of street hawkers. Lagos was home to over 17 million people in 2025, a city of chaos and opportunity. Among those millions, his loved ones were waiting, and so was a vengeful criminal. On the day of his flight, James packed lightly. In his carry-on, he secured the ledger, the forged letter John had made, and copies of the bank statements, evidence he might need. He also carried the precious photo of Samuel. As the plane roared off the JFK runway, James clenched the armrests, heart pounding not from fear of flying, but from the knowledge that he was hurtling toward a confrontation long overdue.